Hello, everybody. I am coming to you live. Well, I guess it's not live from our classroom this afternoon. It is empty behind me. This is our final discussion, our final assignment. There's two assignments on Canvas that you need to do, but that's it. That's all we need to do. And so we're going to talk about relationships and human sexuality. I wish that we could have done this differently, in an actual classroom setting, but it's not going to work that way, right? And so here you go. We would talk about relationships. Who do we have relationships with? We have relationships with different people in our lives. Those relationships look different depending on who they are with. Some things are appropriate with some relationships and others not. But all relationships require work, right? And a lot of them have the same aspects if they're a good relationship or not. We would evaluate a relationship that we're in. And if you wanted to pause this and actually evaluate a relationship that you're in, you can do that and go ahead and feel free to do that. That's great. Um, It'll help you understand if this relationship needs work or not. Now, if you have an awesome relationship, does that mean you're good? You don't have to do anything? No, you got to work on it, right? It has to be intentional. If you have a bad relationship, can it get better? Yes, it can, right? Some relationships do have to be ended, but you know what? Communication is key for any good relationship. Communication is not something that just happens. It's something you have to practice and practice and practice. Make sure when you are communicating that all of your communication is adding up, that it's lining up, that you're sending the same message with all forms of your communication, right? If you're saying, I'm fine, but really your body language is saying that you're mad and you're not listening to them, then that means that you are mad, right? And if you have someone acting that way, you can ask them, it looks like your body language is saying to me that you're angry and that you're not listening, right? Of course, we would use a knit message on that, right? Especially with intimacy. Just because someone puts their hand on your leg doesn't mean they want to make out. And understand that in order for you to have consent, you need to have all the different communication lining up, right? Just because they say, yes, I want to do something, and their body language says no, that means no, right? And so we talk about communication. Never assume just because someone says something, that's what they mean, right? Understand that you need to actively listen. Ask them, so what you're saying is this, and clarify, right? And empathize and use your body language and be aware of others' body language as well. Understand what message you are receiving and what message you might unintentionally be sending, right? There's some good communication techniques, and we talked about it messages, and we're not going to go over that again. Another way to communicate is a love language. Sometimes you love someone and it doesn't really mean anything. When I was dating my wife, I woke up early, cleared her car off of snow and everything like that, and she didn't really understand why I did that. Because that's not her love language, right? Her love language is quality time. So if I spend a ton of time going on a walk with her, that means a lot. If she makes me my favorite dinner, that is acts of service, and that means a lot to me. So I encourage you to do some more research into this, right? Just because you're telling someone you love them, does it really mean that to them? Are they understanding what you're trying to say, right? We'd talk about friendship. Usually, friendship or friends, you are friends with people that you date. So, what is dating? It's more than just friends, right? And why should we date? Um, Dating is basically practicing marriage. You're practicing being with someone for an extended period of time and getting to know them on a more intimate level. You're deciding what to do together. You have an independence together. No one's telling you what to do. You feel accepted. It helps someone's self-esteem, and that's why sometimes they stay in a bad relationship. But they feel accepted, right? They feel like, hey, someone wants to be with me. They chose me. And as you date, you feel more at ease with the relationship. I know when I went on my first date, it was pretty awkward, and you guys would probably tell us also about your awkward first date experience if this was class. Remember, I shook the girl's hand at the end of the date. I went home. I got made fun of and stuff like that. I was really nervous on my first date. I thought, dating's all about having the girl pay for food, and that's not what it is. But I got to know people, and some of you have done that. You've gone on a date and you get to know someone, and they're not the person that you thought that they were, right? Dating, the way it looks like, it varies different in different cultures and families. What's considered dating, what's okay and not okay in a dating relationship. You got to ask yourself, why would someone have, or why do I have a steady boyfriend or girlfriend? If you can't answer that question, you probably shouldn't have one, right? What are the pros of having a steady boyfriend or girlfriend? Well, dependability. You always have someone to go out with. Problem comes up, you know who you're going to ask, and it leads to marriage, right? Cons, you're stuck with that person. You can't really meet with other people unless you're cheating on them and stuff like that. You may feel pressured into physical intimacy or doing things you don't want to do. And it's really hard to break up because they might cry and other things. But also, it's just hard to have that close relationship ripped away and then trying to have to start over with someone else, right? Physical intimacy, just understanding that it's natural to want to be intimate or close to someone, right? It goes back to when we're all cavemen, cavewomen. The biggest desires that we have or drives of nature are to eat food and to reproduce, or else us as humans would not be able to survive as a species. Happens right around puberty, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, depending on the person. It's a natural feeling. It's not icky, it's not gross, it doesn't mean you're perverted, right? But understanding that when we're cavemen, cavewomen, we would live only until we're about 30, 32, right? And then we'd die. So it's important that we reproduce when we're 15, 16. However, that doesn't work in today's society. There's different things that we're doing at 15, 16. We live to be 80 or so, right? It's hard sometimes for us to understand what these feelings mean, and it's confusing. But we need to understand that these feelings are natural and we can decide. And so we need to decide before a situation arises what we're going to do in that aspect, right? What affects our physical intimacy. A lot of times, someone's together for a long period of time, they think the physical intimacy needs to be more, right? But the understanding, the best part is you get to set your limits. You're not an animal, you're not a dog that just goes around and mates with tons of other dogs and stuff like that and is confused. No, you get to decide. You have a brain that you can think with and decide where you want to go in physical intimacy, right? Not only understanding that this physical intimacy has physical um, issues with it, but also has emotional, right? When you are emotionally intimate with someone, that also helps you become closer to them. But it also can, if moving too quickly, be damaging to you and your mental emotional health, right? They talked about this in the Jerkette PowerPoint that you looked at, right? Knowing someone, trusting, relying, committing, and understanding that this touch should not go above any of these. Sometimes as teenagers, the touch goes up higher, and it gives a false sense of commitment or trust, or that you know the person that is not actually there, right? So I want to talk about touch right here. So what's at the bottom and what's at the top? This right here is called the human sexuality, or I guess the sexual arousal continuum. What it is saying is usually people aren't together, hold hands, and then have sex. That is prostitution, right? Well, I mean, some people do that and they hook up, right? However, it's usually a gradual process. Again, it's natural, it's not icky, it's not perverted, right? Usually people are together, they hold hands, right? And that might be a little bit, nerve wracking, and then they have a goodnight kiss, and then they swap saliva. They have a prolonged kiss, some lip locking. Surgeon General says when you kiss someone, swap their saliva, their DNA stays in your system up to 5 years, which is crazy, right? And then you might have some necking, kissing on the neck, leaving badges of love, or hickeys, I call them. And then you have petting, which is feeling certain areas of the body that stimulate sexual arousal over the clothing, right? And understanding that these are educational terms, so you might not be familiar with them. Heavy petting is feeling underneath the clothing, skin on skin contact, certain areas of the body that stimulate sexual arousal. And then we have mutual sex play, which is feeling other areas of the body and foreplay. And then we have sex. So what's going on? Again, a lot of us know what's going on physically when we're going through this progression, but what else is going on in each other's brains? Well, right around being together, holding hands, goodnight kiss, not a lot's going on, right? Not a lot of people are, I mean, you might get a little nervous and stuff like that. But what happens when we have prolonged kissing, swapping of saliva, and necking, the male, generally speaking, his pituitary gland actually releases hormone into his body that stimulates sexual arousal, right? That tells him, hey, you need to make a baby. It's a natural thing. It happens, right? Doesn't mean he's perverted or whatever, but it's something that happens. This is beginning of danger because now he has this natural communication device telling him that he needs to have a baby, right? So he's kind of battling, between what he is logically thinking and what his natural side is telling him, right? And then right around heavy petting, fill in certain areas of the body that stimulate sexual arousal underneath the clothing. That's when the female's brain releases those human sexuality hormones and tells her to become aroused. And they get the message right here, heavy petting, that they need to have sex or make a baby is what the deal is. Then they have sex, and then all those feelings go away, and then they come back to reality. And that might be confusing for them because then they feel maybe guilt or anxiety or a loss of self esteem or whatnot, right? However, what else is released when we have sex? There are three different hormones or brain chemicals released when we have sex. Dopamine, good feelings, right? That's what drives people to have sex and eat food. Oxytocin, bonding, actually brings people closer together. Oxytocin is a chemical released when a mom has a baby and that bonding that they have, right? If someone's just hooking it up and then tearing it apart, that's going to be damaging to them. And then vasopressin, it helps a person trust and commit to that person. It's called the monogamy hormone. It makes you feel like you're pairing off, right? Understanding you can stop at any line on this progression. Understanding that when we start sooner, we usually end sooner. So when should someone start this process? Some people start this when they're 13, 14, 15, 16, they're doing this, 17, they're having sex. Versus if they wait until they're 16 and then 17, then 18, then 19, they're having sex. Big difference, right? You can stop anywhere that you want. Some people say, I'll stop whatever, whenever, I'll do whatever feels right at the time. Think about a boyfriend, girlfriend, or, people together that they are together, heavy petting, filling certain areas of the body that stimulate sexual arousal underneath the clothing. They're not going to stop and think, oh, wow, maybe we should think about this. It's going to be harder for them to stop right there. There's more that you can do on a date than just making out. Here's some ideas, right? Understanding that we are like humans, we have the ability to think and act, right? What are our boundaries? Well, what happens physically? Here you go. This is what happens physically. Woman has a vagina and a uterus and fallopian tubes and an ovary. This uterus will go from the size of a fist or a pear to the size of a watermelon when a baby grows inside of her, right? This is about 5 inches of fallopian tubes, about twice the thickness of hair. These are about as big as almonds. She will produce 500,000 eggs in a lifetime. It takes 6 women to populate the entire United States if she did that. She got pregnant for every single one of those and had a 9-month pregnancy. She'd live to be 375,000 years old. And then we have the male. He has the testicles that produce sperm, and then they go through the epididymis, which is 20 tubing, which I got this green tape on the floor, and it represents 20 feet of tubing, which is kind of crazy, but that's what the sperm go through. Go through the vas deferens, out the tip of the penis, and a man will produce around 250 million sperm every time he ejaculates. So twice ejaculation, he can populate the entire United States. In his lifetime, he will produce 525 billion sperm. That is enough, if each of those sperms turn into a human, to populate 70 Earths. That's crazy, right? So the sperm is produced in the testicles, epididymis, goes through the vas deferens, out to the penis with all the semen. If it's happening during sexual intercourse, that sperm will travel up through the vagina and the fallopian tubes and fertilize an egg, and that egg will grow cells into a baby. And then that baby will grow inside of the mom, and its heart will bypass its lungs, and then pretty soon she will have a baby. That's an epidural to make it so it doesn't feel anything, or the woman doesn't feel, and sometimes the baby needs help coming out, right? We'd watch Miracle of Life, and if you want to watch that, that's fine, and it will help you go through this process. But that's basically how a baby is made. Now, babies cost money. They are emotionally draining. They do not help you with your self-esteem. These are my kids, and I just wanted to share, some of the things that I've had with kids. It's a commitment. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Understanding that this decision to make a baby is not something that you should take lightly. This right here is my girl, and she's tearing up my college, book. They found the Nutella right before bed. He's eating a moldy piece of cheese. Found the mud, writing, stitches. Don't even want to go there. What do you do with that? I don't know. If you don't do something about that, guess what? They grab it and smear it on their face. All these things, right? And so understanding that this is a lifelong commitment. He did that just barely a couple days ago. I love my kids, though. I love them so much. It does cost money. This is a bill that my sister-in-law and my sister had, understanding that, what, I really care about you guys. Please, please, please make good decisions when it comes to these things. They have lifelong consequences. I hope to see you next year. Please do these assignments, and I really hope that this video worked because I've done this like 4 times and it hasn't been working at all. So please, please, I hope, I'm crossing my fingers that this worked this time. But